Hello, hello. Sorry I've been gone so long. My online tribe, I know it's been 2 weeks, but I was away in the Rocky Mountains and it was incredible. I got all tan, as you guys can see, and also just super revitalized, energized. The Rocky Mountains are something so special. So highly recommend you guys take a vacation there if you have not already done so. And to my Colorado friends, oh my goodness, you live in the land of the gods. That was amazing. So today we're going to be talking about staying motivated and on track when you're struggling. And so specifically, the reason I want to talk about this today is because one of the most common things I hear when people come to me and they feel stuck, or when they feel just like they can't move forward, or they just feel like unmotivated to do the things that they really actually want to be doing in life, they feel like it's their fault on some level, right? And that there's something wrong with them, or that they're doing something wrong, and that's why they don't have all of that motivation. So I'm pretty sure that this has happened for all of us at some point. So I really wanted to speak to that and how to kind of kick your motivation back up and to continue moving forward, even when you're not feeling super, super, super energized about that. So if you're watching, I can see there's a few people watching. Say hello in the comments. It means a lot to me to know who's here, who's watching. And even more than that, I would love for you to type in your questions or your thoughts. Hey, Prado, good to see you here. So please let me know as I'm going along, how this resonates with you and how you can apply this to your own experience, so that we can really, really make this relevant and helpful, and not just another video you find online out of the thousands of videos you can find online. So let's talk about it. So let's when you're trying to get unstuck, or when you're trying to ditch anxiety, or when you're trying to feel or when you're trying to reach an important goal in your life, right? Whatever that is, it tends to be about adopting a certain behavior. So for example, you might say, hey, I really know that eating less sugar would be good for me, but for some reason I just cannot manage to stay on track. Or I want to drink less alcohol, or I really want to start a meditation habit, or I really want to just have a consistent yoga practice, or I want to be able to pause in situations where I kind of get out of my own skin and stop acting to the best of my own integrity and just reacting all the time. I want to be able to pause and really have mindful and conscious reactions, right? And then what happens is you start doing a thing, right? So let's say maybe you sign up for a diet program, or you sign up for a gym, or you commit to a week of gratitude practices, or whatever it is, and you're on a roll and you're rocking and rolling, you're feeling good, and this is going to be it this time, and I'm really changing my life, and yeah. And then boom, one day you wake up and you just have no motivation to kind of keep going. And so you tell yourself a story that often sounds a little bit like, I've been doing so good, I can take a day off, or I can chill, or I can whatever, and then you don't do that thing. But then you start to feel guilty about not doing that thing. And you start to say, maybe here I am once again, not doing the thing that I know is good for me, right? And so then you kind of punish yourself, or you give in to that self-sabotaging narrative. And so then you go and do something even more unhealthy, right? Or maybe you just start thinking really negatively about yourself. That entire tailspin is completely unproductive, because what you do is you develop a belief about yourself that you can't finish what you start. And that becomes a subconscious way of perceiving yourself, right? That I self-sabotage, I can start things, but I can never finish things. I never know how to follow through. I'm never going to be able to really change my life because I can't follow through, right? And you develop that really, really negative and limiting narrative about yourself. Now, you can argue all you want with me that is a true narrative. This is real. This is true. But the fact is that there's always an underlying issue when you're getting stuck. There's always an underlying, specifically an unmet need that you have, which is stopping you from moving forward. And so if you can get into that unmet need without getting all that blame, shame, guilt, then you get to solve the problem and keep moving forward, without all of that emotional exhaustion and limiting stories and negative self-talk and just spiraling out of control, right? So that's what I really want to teach you how to do and empower you how to do today. All right, so the first absolute number one critical skill you must have, you must possess if you are somebody who wants to consistently stay on track and consistently stay motivated is the skill of self-compassion. Now, let me tell you what that means. Compassion basically means, in my opinion, looking at yourself and talking to yourself and looking at your situation and your stuckness in life with the same kindness and new perspective and lack of judgment that one of your best friends would, or maybe your grandma would, or some other really just deeply loving, kind figure in your life, right? This bringing this open-hearted, loving compassion into your own world rather than, like I said before, that judgment, that shame, that guilt, all the negative stories you've been telling yourself about all your life, to really come in with these new and open and loving eyes. Now, self-compassion is an art and a science, but let me tell you a little bit about what I would love for you to do when you feel yourself going off track, stopping on the way to your goals, self-sabotaging, however you would want to say that. I want you to just pause and say, hey, guilt, shame, blame, negative stories about what I can't achieve, all this kind of stuff. I hear you, I feel you, but I'm going to put you aside for one quick second. And I'm just going to start to investigate inwardly and just kind of like a scientist with a microscope, say, hey, what's happening here? Why don't you feel like eating something healthy today? Why don't you feel like going to the gym? Why don't you feel like watching that video? And more than that, if you can't get an answer from yourself of that, you ask, hey, babe, what's your unmet need here? What is something that you need? And I would say in modern times, the most unmet need is just rest, right? A lot of us are running around emotionally exhausted. And when we're emotionally exhausted or just physically exhausted from our lives, it's very, 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 very hard to summon the motivation to do anything, even things that we naturally like. And so what I ask for you to do is to just kind of say, hey, what's my unmet need? Is it exhaustion? Am I emotionally exhausted or am I physically exhausted? Okay, well then before I go and try to push myself to do something that's still a little bit outside of my comfort zone because it's growth, because it's goal-oriented, because it's this, let me feed this need. Let me get that rest. Let me give myself what I need in order to have the power and the energy to continue to move forward, right? This is so different than what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? I'm an ass. I'm a jerk. I always self-sabotage. I can never stay on track. I'm broken. I guess I don't believe in myself, or I guess I don't think I'm worthy, right? So different to say, hey, what do I need? And how can I fulfill that need before I push myself to do something out of my comfort zone, right? So that's a really, really important part of self-compassion. The other critical part of practicing self-compassion, specifically around being stuck, is to remind yourself that this is a temporary state, right? You do not know a single person, hey Shiv, nice to see you here. You do not know a single person in the world who has never lacked motivation, who's always roaring to go and ripping to go and blah, 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 right? Everybody has seasons of the heart. Everybody has days when they wake up and they are saying hell yes, and then everybody has days when they wake up and they're saying, not so much, right? And there's about 1 million factors that can go into this. Everything from where the planets are to what you ate yesterday to whether or not you're surrounded by people who love you, to how many hours you're sleeping. It's 1 million factors. And so rather than try to microanalyze all of them, just remind yourself that, hey, it's super normal and in fact incredibly human to have these kind of temporary states, right? And so here I am in this temporary state. This is natural, this is normal, and just like this pause or this stuckness or this lack of motivation is temporary, so too is when I will have a temporary surge of motivation again. Look at your life, you always have. You've always had periods of dips and periods of highs in terms of motivation, okay? So once again, look how different this is than your traditional narrative, which is, oh my God, here I am. I guess I quit my habit. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't do my meditation today. I ended up drinking way more than I should have. I guess I am that same jerk that I always used to be. Nothing's changing, right? And then you get into that negative headspace and you fall deep into that place and you never get back on track. So just reminding yourself, number one, this is probably about an emotional or physical unmet need. Let me see if I can address that. And then number two is kind of saying, hey, this is temporary. This has happened before. This will happen again. I do not need to think that this is this deterministic, final emotional state that I'm going to have for the rest of my life, right? It's simply not true. It's not based on the evidence. So those are 2 points in what it means to practice self-compassion. But the truth is, self-compassion is an embodied experience, right? It's not just about how you talk to yourself. It's about how you actually learn to feel those thoughts, that compassion, that love, that kindness, that softness, so that all that resistance in your body is kind of melted away, right? With this love, with this softness, with this kindness. And so if you want to know more about self-compassion and really get into the art and science of how to practice self-compassion so that you never, ever get stuck in that negative headspace again and just quit your goals and quit your dreams and start telling yourself once again that you're like a self-sabotager, then you absolutely must sign up for my course for Freedom from Anxiety, because that's what it teaches you in the number 1 module. That's where we start, is with self-compassion. So that as you, in Freedom from Anxiety, I always teach you all of these new habits that you'll learn, which have to do with changing your diet in anti-inflammatory ways that balance your hormones. It has to do with changing the way you think. It has to do with changing your energy in specific social situations that tend to trigger you. I teach you all these new habits, but to develop new habits, it takes motivation. And you must be able to practice self-compassion if you want to keep your motivation going. You cannot bypass that step. So the link, I'm going to put the link for Freedom from Anxiety in the comment box right here in a few moments when I'm done with this live. And it's massively discounted right now. It's usually a $2,000 program. Right now it's just $399 and you can get started right away. It's going to be amazing. It's going to change your life. So absolutely, if you know self-compassion is going to help you get through those moments of stuckness, please go sign up while it is at this discounted price. Okay, so moving forward. What else can you do when you're feeling stuck so that you can get back to your motivation and really stay on track? The second thing you need to do is really get back in touch with your bigger why. And so, again, a lot of people say, okay, well, I'm trying to go to the gym because I want to be healthy, right? And so that day that you wake up and you just don't feel like going to the gym, right? Like you just don't have that motivation to go to the gym, rather than think about what it's going to be like to be in the gym in an hour, which is probably going to exhaust you or overwhelm you in that moment. Think about why you decided to go to the gym in the first place. Now, once again, this larger why absolutely must be based on love and not fear. Here's what I mean. So your larger why of why you're going to the gym, it should be based on, when I become a mother, I want to be the most energetic and healthy and vibrant mother in the world, right? Like that's what I want to be. So I want to make sure I'm super healthy. And you close your eyes and you see yourself as this incredibly energetic mother. Or let's say you wanted to go to the gym just because you know that it just keeps your head in a good place all the time. And you can then close your eyes and see yourself going to your office, going to work, and just being able to like not be bothered by all the bullshit that goes on at work, because you've already done that positive habit, gotten your head in a good space, right? Visualize that. Visualize the larger why. Visualize what, how you're going to feel. Hello there, Agreem. When you have accomplished this, that larger why, and really picture scenes, right? Like, so what I said, that mom who's always energized, or, that person who goes to work and just kind of like knocking off stress bumps like it's no big deal. That's what you're going for, right? You're going to visualize that. That is going to trigger a neurological response inside that's really going to increase your motivation. So highly recommend you make sure that's based on love. Fear-based wise do not work. So if I don't go to the gym, then, you know, I'm not going to be able to respect myself. Or if I don't go to the gym, I'm going to be too fat and nobody will want to marry me. If I don't go to the gym, you know, I'm going to, you know, I don't know, lose all my friends because they're all like much more fit than I am. Whatever it is, that ain't going to work. Putting yourself in a state of fear, it may work for maybe one day, but the next day you're just going to have thought about that fear all day and feel even more emotionally exhausted. Remember, going back to self-compassion, the work we were talking about in self-compassion, it's really about saying your unmet needs are what stop you from staying on track with your goals. And so many times that need is relaxation and ease. So do not emotionally exhaust yourself by telling yourself negative stories or saying, I'm not going to be worthy of love, or I'm not going to be worthy of, or I'm not going to be attractive, or I'm not going to be successful if I don't do X, Y, Z. That will not keep you going. Okay. Tip number 3. Who has questions so far, by the way? Type them in the comments as we go along. So tip number 3 for staying on track when you start to feel demotivated is to just go back and review your successes in life. So this does not have to necessarily be related to your goal in particular, right? So for example, and you just really want to have a beer today, like you're really craving it or whatever, right? And rather than go back and say, well, yesterday I didn't have a drink and the day before I didn't have a drink and the day before, that can be powerful and that's great. But also just take a broader scan of your life and look at all of the kinds of situations that you somehow miraculously persisted through. Like, wow, I had to go through like 7 interviews to get that job. Or in order to switch careers, I had to go into like 19 different paths in order, like, 19 different schools just to check out what was going to be the right program for me after all, or whatever it is, right? So you really want to, agreement is asking, just want to ask how we can overcome that stress at the workplace. All right, cool. I'll talk to that point in a little bit. But what you really want to do is review all of your successes in life, because you start to change the mental picture that you have of yourself in your head at that moment. So again, typically the picture that you have in your head when you start to feel demotivated or stuck or not like you want to do anything is, I'm lazy, I'm bad, I'm boring, I'm self-sabotaging, I'm unworthy, whatever it is, right? And you want to actively and conscientiously switch that. So by reflecting on all of your successes, by reflecting on all of the times that you have kicked ass, that you have persisted, that you have gotten up and done the thing, that people have given you compliments, that whatever it is, that's going to immediately change your image of yourself in your head, and you're going to just feel much more energized because you're going to be seeing yourself differently, and it's going to really energize you to get up and not have that drink or whatever it is. All right, tip number 4, ask for help. And I know that this might seem like super obvious, but I find that in our current culture, this is one of the hardest tips, because asking for help makes us feel super vulnerable and can often contribute to this narrative of like, why can't I do it all by myself, right? In America, we like to be able to do everything ourselves and be super strong and be super independent and blah, 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 right? And so what I want to tell you about that is, number 1, that's a broken thought pattern. Asking for help actually statistically, clinically proven makes people like you more, because people like to help other people. It makes them feel good about themselves. So number 1, it's just a broken idea that people are not going to like you, or that you're doing a disservice to people in some way by asking for help. But also number 2, is that a lot of people, when they don't know who to ask for help. Like, what do I ask for help? And so doing something super easy, like just reaching out to a friend, like, struggling to make it to the gym today, or like, I really feel like having a drink even though I'm promising myself not to, or I'm not sitting down on the meditation cushion no matter how easy it is. All you need to say is, hey, can you give me a little bit of positive reinforcement? It doesn't have to be that this person has to like take over your life or do anything big. It just means they have to remind you of how awesome you really are. And again, people love the opportunity to do that. You love the opportunity to do that, right? Like to help others, to be there for others, to cheer them on, to remind them of positive things. Why wouldn't you give that to somebody else, right? We are here as a human race to help each other. So don't tip yourself of that. All right. And the final tip that I want to give you for staying on track as you know, are moving towards whatever kind of goals and intentions and visions that you have for your own life is to cut yourself a deal. And so what I mean by that is that you really, really want to, like, so there's going to be a part of you which is saying, let's say, don't go to the gym, right? Don't go to the gym. You're too tired. You're too exhausted. It's too much, blah, blah. It doesn't even matter, whatever. And then there's going to be another voice inside of your head that says, you should do this. Come on, you can do it. You're okay. And you have those two little voices talking to each other, right? We all have them. And so rather than, like, you know, just focus on one or focus on the other, imagine they're in dialogue and kind of like breaking a deal with one another. So this one's like, I can't go to the gym. And this one's like, you gotta go to the gym, man. Let's do the thing. Instead of saying like one is right and one is wrong, just be like, hey, what's a compromise? What can we do together as partners? And so this one's like, well, I don't feel like going to the gym because I'm really tired. It was a long day at work and it's just too much. And this one's like, but I know it's gonna make me feel so good. I'm gonna feel so proud. And so they say, okay, well, what if rather than going for the gym, we at least go for a walk around the block like 5 times? That'll keep the momentum up. That'll make us feel like we did something, but we don't have to fully go to the full extent of that goal that day, right? So that way you don't get to get into that negative story of self-sabotage, and you get to feel proud that you're still moving forward, even if you don't have the full energy to push through to the maximum of what you wanted to do that day, right? But you keep the momentum going, and that is what is absolutely critical. So that is really what I wanted to share with you guys today. And I see that Agrim is asking definitely about, you know, the workplace specifically, like how to stay motivated around work that you don't enjoy. And so what I will tell you, Agrim, is that I honestly would not be a good coach if I told you to stay in a job and try to get motivated around a job that you don't like. I think natural motivation is an important thing, and it definitely comes from having a job that is aligned with our values in an environment where we broadly have similar values as the kind of people that we're working with, or that we share the mission, or that we share the purpose. So I wouldn't be a good coach if I told you to just try to get motivated about something you don't like. So I won't tell you that. But what I will tell you is that a lot of times we do like our work, or we at least like it enough, but we feel really demotivated about it again because we're just exhausted. And so that's where you once again need to start to change the way you're thinking, right? Be compassionate with yourself there. Like, hey, are the standards that I have for myself in this job even fair? Number one. Number two is, what little small things can I do for myself to fulfill my more deeper unmet needs right now in order to give myself a little more motivation to get through the day, right? Sometimes that might be just striking a new friendship at work, or listening to music that you love while you're doing it, or treating yourself to the most incredible lunch, right? Or starting a club at work to talk about an issue you really do care about. I could go on and on about this, and I won't go too specifically into that, but there is a lot of work around job crafting that you can do in order to get more natural motivation based on how you think and perceive your work, rather than just changing your work. However, I will say, and I will say, and I will say, and I will say, you must have a job that is aligned with your values, or of course you are going to struggle with motivation, right? And so that's why Freedom from Anxiety is such an amazing course, because it's not just about like, hey, how do I stop feeling anxious? It's about, how do I look at my whole life to set me up so that I don't struggle with anxiety? Agree is saying, wow, you're a great counselor. Thank you. And so what we do is, like I said, we start with self-compassion so that you have this awesome tool inside your heart to stop yourself from getting into that negative. Why am I not doing what I want to do? Why am I self-sabotaging? Why do I always quit? What's wrong with me? I must think I'm unworthy, or whatever. Something is wrong with me, right? So self-compassion is where it starts. Then we really work into how to rewire your brain, right? How to start thinking and perceiving things differently, rather than from this victim mentality, or from this nervous mentality, or from this fear that you can't trust anyone or anything, or least yourself, right? So we really just overturn your brain so that you perceive yourself with love, and you are always thinking about your strengths, and you're always feeling confident, and like we really work on that rewiring of the brain. And then we get into all the lifestyle stuff. So we really focus on hey, you know, how do you have a career that you love so that anxiety doesn't come up as much at work, right? How do you feel naturally motivated at work? And similarly, what about your relationships? How do you identify your tribe, find your people, communicate with such authentic courage and compassion that you just feel naturally yourself, right? Anxiety and really all stuckness and emotional baggage is always coming from this place of I'm trying to be this, but I'm actually this. And in between, there's all of this like gap that makes me feel bad. And so this course is a holistic course that not only heals your mind and your body, but it really helps you set up a life that is anti-anxiety. So get started on that course because it is only $3.99, and that I do not know how long that will last. So many people have been signing up, and I've been loving the energy in the course. So that's why I have kept it at that price, but it will go up soon. Check it out. Send me a message if you have any questions about it. I cannot wait for you to get started, and I hope you have an extremely motivated day and make awesome moves towards your goals, towards your intentions, towards your vision. You are worthy, you are loved, you are beautiful, and I will see you soon. Mwah! Namaste.